Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of our Student Spotlight series, where we're able to showcase some of the work our students have been doing. I'm Charlotte, one of the academic coordinators here at CCIR, and it's our pleasure to have one of our students that just took one of our neuroscience courses. So why don't you introduce yourselves to tell us where you're from, what course you took, the mentor for that course, and kind of what your initial experience was like with CCIR.
So hi everyone, I'm Annie. Thank you guys for having us. And I'm from China. I was born and raised in China. I'm currently in grade 11 and transitioning to grade 12. As an IB student, I work with my professor pretty well. And I have been enrolled in the course of Neuroscience of Emotion, which is led by Professor Ng and was guided by TA teacher of Dr. Brown. And this project was driven by my personal experience with peer victimization during my childhood. And given my own background, I was compelled to better understand the link between victimization and later aggression through the lens of developmental psychology. And the title of my paper is Assessment of Overt Peer Victimization in Children, the Developmental Pathway to Aggression. And diving deep into theories like social information processing model and pertinent neuroscience research has helped to elucidate some of the mechanism at play. And my research specifically examining the link between peer victimization and aggression in youth. And it has an atypical, and it has an meaningful real world implication. As the project overview indicates, simply correlating an atypical processing patterns with psychopathology can be really tempting. And my research helps to tell the field about those aggression may act as an adaptive mechanism for children in some circumstances, some harmful environment, such as those enduring domestic violence.
And were you able to have any experience with this topic before you came and did the course at CCIR? So did you have any experience with this topic in high school before?
I have personal connection with being victimized when I was in elementary school, but I have never been formally told about this specific topic because peer victimization is a really specific branch under developmental psychology. Although I did learn psychology as a major, a broad course in my high school, but we never had the opportunity to dig in depth that CCIR could provide. Because when compared to learning in class and being tutored by our teachers, being guided by a mentor like lesson by CCIR faculty is pretty different. So the class that I enrolled in is Future Scholar program, which we have 4 students gathered in a class. So I really receive a lot of attention by each professor, and they actually have really in-depth dialogue between each of the members in our team.
Nice. And to talk about your research a little bit, was there anything in particular that you were expecting to find that you didn't find, or any kind of interesting findings that you weren't expecting to see?
Yes, I think one of the unexpected finding is my skepticism about one researcher who's really well known in the field of psychology, which is Rain, and he has been correlating one atypical processing pattern with psychopathy, and I think this is a really tempting conclusion, because if you're saying one predisposing factor that could lead a child to become a psychopathology, that will be subjecting to a negativity bias. So after examining more literature, I have find that his conclusion has a really important limitation, which he discard the factor that there are different types of victimization. So there are verbal types, relational types, and overt type. Because overt victimization is more easily observed in experimental conditions. So this is more widely studied. But relational form, which is not easily captured by observers, is actually more prevalent among girls, and it is actually more harmful and even more prevalent under today's globalization setting and digitalization, where during cyberbullying, that's more indirect interactions. So I think these gaps is what I need to address. And this may also poses a really important sex difference.
And then with your findings, was there any of them that are kind of your paper as a whole, did it change your perspective on anything related to the topic?
I think yes, because my writing, this would really attribute to my writing process. So I start with viewing some secondary research, which is some theoretical paper that is more general. They start to explain the play characteristic between boys and girls, examining some sex difference, such as the rough and tumble play of boys may promote social hierarchy and more aggression, but as compared to girls who are cultivated under norms of caring and like more silent and stress coping ways. But my finding about the relational victimization and its association that is higher among girls has led me to be more skeptical among the interpreting the statistical findings that suggest girls may have lower victimization and aggression.
Interesting. And then to pivot to talk a little bit about your experience with the CCIR and in your course, can you speak a bit to what your experience was like in the program, and then especially doing a high-level research project like this as a high school student?
Okay, so I was able to take a course on neuroscience of emotion taught by Professor Ng, and through her lectures and the guidance, I came better understanding the psychological concept like emotional intelligence, psychopathology, and neurobiology underlying human emotions and behavior. And discussing these topics with experts like Professor Ng showed me how fascinating and multifaceted the field of psychology is. And I knew I wanted to dig deeper. So when it comes to time to work on my academic paper, I chose it to focus on an area that combined my interest in neuroscience, emotions, and human development. But there are some challenges that I face, especially as an IB student, because my time was already saturated with classes, college applications, and preparing for intensive IB exams. So when I joined CCIR and discovered the time difference between China and UK, I strive to find a way to stay productive. And initially, it seemed really daunting. But after all, having our regular CCIR meeting scheduled from 2 to 3 p.m. in UK time meant participating for me from 9 to 10 p.m. in China, which is right before I typically needed to wind down and preparing for bed. But the enthusiasm and curiosity sparked by Professor Ng's fascinating lectures motivated me, and this research area captured my interest. I knew I wanted to thoroughly investigate the nuances. And in a way, the urgency I felt mirrored that of the real psychologists and neuroscientists whose research I was reviewing. And the passion that I compelled them to work rigorously must have also been kept those real psychologists from burning the midnight oil. And they sacrificed luxuries to uncover like the new insights. So I think submerging myself into this program also helped me to get a sense of what college life will be. So I think this is a really precious chance to experience.
And then can you speak a bit to how the research process and experience was compared to papers and projects that you're used to doing in high school?
Okay, so I'll start with the typical project that I did in high school. We in IB curriculum, we have criteria B that is specified for research in science and reviewing criteria D for research in science. But in terms of the length, it is about not more than 2,000 words. But the paper that I'm writing now is about 8,000 words. Although I know I still have to delete some, but that's about the length and also about the breadth. In my high school, our topic is more focused. Although the specificity in CCIR is also demonstrated, but we have more freedom as an independent researchers to branch it to other interdisciplinary fields that we can find. And also the selection of the source also have to be more scientific and more careful. So besides, before I still rely on some websites as my resources, but now I was told that I can only use some journals, especially for psychology. So I think that's really important difference. But specifically for the writing process of my CCIR paper, I focused on synthesizing the past research that examines the association between experience of bullying and peer recognitions. And I also integrated some neuroimaging findings uncovering some emotional mechanism involved. However, conducting interdisciplinary research presented some real challenges. So for instance, when reading about neurobiology without a firm grasp of the brain region's localized functions made contextualizing those findings really difficult initially. But I was motivated to take some statistic course like on other program to aid my ability to interpret results across studies. And I also brought up some discussions on class with professor and especially the TA teacher who helped a lot about teaching us how to interpret those findings. And also I learned a lot from my peers in the CCIR team. Dr. Brian gave us the chance to do a mock peer review with our peers. We would just screen share our own paper and each other will give comments to boost our writing skill.
And speaking of your peers in the course, can you talk a little bit about what it was like working with other students? Where were they from? Did you enjoy it? Did you think it was beneficial to your learning?
I think that's really beneficial for having peers of diverse backgrounds. So there are 4 students in our course, and they are all girls, including me. And 2 of them are Chinese. One is me, who is local, who also live in China. But another girl, Chinese girl, she attend a American high school, so she has a dual identity, and the other 2 girls are both in the States. And I think we talked a lot about the cultural differences regarding the perspective about psychopathology, especially the Chinese cultural taboo about mental illness. And this also attract interest from our Professor Ng, who has her background as both a psychologist, researcher, and a therapist. And she shared a lot about how she was able to observe her patients' really carefully by emphasizing with them. And she also taught us some about the sensitivity and some ethical consideration that really make us feel resonatable.
And then we also really like to emphasize the aspect of mentorship in our programs. So as opposed to just our mentors being teachers, where our mentors aren't just there to kind of transfer information onto you, but really guide you through your own discoveries and learning process. Can you tell me a bit about your experience with your mentor and your TA as you moved through the first kind of teaching half of the course into your research-oriented latter half of the course?
I think this really deal with how they smartly structure their classes. So for Professor Ng, who is the lecturer of our course, she always gave us the PPT lecture at first, and then whenever she paused, like during some activities such as I remember once we have a facial recognition text of the emotion that are presented to us, and she asked us to engage and interact with her material by asking us to guess what each image corresponds to which emotion, and then she will debrief to us why is it. And I think this interaction made the course material more memorable to us, and it is more applicable whenever we want to write into our paper. And Dr. Brian also followed this fashion. So she would actually bring in her own experience as a researcher, including how she strategically formulates the limitation by saving some for her own paper, future paper, but not revealing all the limitation of the paper, some insider's view of what writing should be like. And this really sparked our interest, which motivates us to follow the same manner in our writing process.
Nice. And then to speak a bit to the outcomes, has this course given you any insights or changed or shaped your path moving forward in terms of kind of your career and your interests?
I think it majorly strengthened the key skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and analysis. So conducting literature review and proposing innovative future direction requires a lot of critical thinking and synthesis skills. When I ran into like some research challenges, problem solving was crucial, and learning to interpret those studies and data facilitated my analytical skills. And beyond that, writing a work of this length and academic rigor taught me to persevere and also to manage my time more wisely. And it also cultivated my attention to detail. I think it was a really meaningful progress that prepared me for those high level scholarship. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to grow at CCIR.
And then can you also speak a bit to your experience with publishing? So what was it like? Did you utilize the publication team as well as your mentor? How did they kind of walk you through that process and where you are now?
The mentors always, so my Professor Ng, which is like our teacher, she always remind us to search for those journals. But after recognizing that we didn't have progress our own, she had provided us a list of reachable academic journal that is appropriate for high school students. And then I check each link and see the specific requirements and also the timeline that each journal requires. And I will trying to fit my paper in order to fulfill the demand. And the TA teacher also told us a lot of skills regarding how to make our maximize the probability that for the journal to select our paper, such as emphasize the implication of your paper or some innovative part of your paper to attract the application team of the journal in order to make their review select your paper.
Nice. And then my last question for you, what would you say to someone who asked you what the value of doing a project or a program like this is, especially for a high school student?
I think the value, as I mentioned, I think is an opportunity for you to grow and to reach the potential that you want to explore further in your area of interest, because it really gives you 2 months or 3 months time for you to engage in class and learning about some college level courses with scientists. And it also gives you more personal touch with what a high-level research would look like. So I would wholeheartedly recommend program like CCIR for any student like me who is looking for further strengthening their academic skill to the next level. And my advice for those students is don't be intimidated if it seems challenging at first, and reach out to your faculty mentors for support. That is really important. And because they always reply your email really quick. And stay curious and open-minded as you explore new topic. But also remember to be focused and specific, otherwise you will write too much. And remember that dedication and perseverance pay off when striving to produce quality work. Because after you finish your paper, you will have a really huge sense of achievement. And lastly, immerse yourself fully and enjoy the experience. The skill built will serve you in higher education.
Thanks so much. I think that was really great advice. So that's about it from me. Thanks so much again for chatting with me, and congratulations on your nomination to our Spotlight series.